Hey guys, this is Doug.
I'm Brandon.
Welcome back to Danger Planet. Today we're going to talk about Danger Planet's experience at Adepticon 22, running some of the Wyrd tournaments.
Yeah.
So I know the first tournament that you ran was the Tyrant tournament. I think that was a 2-day, 5-round tournament.
It was, yeah. So the interesting thing about the Tyrant tournament that we ran was that it used the bands format. So the bands format is a special crew building restriction that after master declaration, both players get to declare a keyword that the other player is not allowed to hire from, unless the models that they're hiring also share a keyword with their master. So for example, if I declared Nightmare and decided that Dreamer was going to be my master, and you decided to ban Woe, I would not be able to take any Woe models that weren't also Nightmares. So I could take Carver, but I wouldn't be able to take Pandora as a second master. I wouldn't be able to take Candy out of keyword or anything like that. So it really gives you some interesting restrictions, but it also has some interesting list building implications for both newer players who might not want to play against certain models, or
and probably also experienced players, right?
Very much so.
I can see that kind of going as a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
So from one perspective, I know there are some double master combinations that can be really frustrating to play against,
Absolutely.
Especially if you're a newer player.
Or in certain scheme pools.
Yeah, or in certain scheme pools, and you might not know how to counter them. But then on the other side, I think it's really interesting that it rewards depth of knowledge in the game.
Absolutely.
So if you're a really experienced player and you know you might have a blind spot in a certain matchup, you can be really proactive about banning something that you just don't want to allow your opponent to have access to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So the bands format is very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and then tell us a little bit about the scheme pools for that tournament.
Yeah. So we basically used all of the Gaining Grounds 2 schemes. The only thing that was a little bit of a curveball is because it was a 5-round tournament, Matt, the designer of Malifaux and the guy who designed all of the scheme pools, he didn't want to make the rounds too stale. So rather than repeating a strategy, we used all 4 of those, but in round 3, we used one of the Gaining Grounds 1 strategies. So that strategy was Recover Evidence, which it's a neat strategy, but it sort of gave us the ability to freshen things up a little bit without having to do the same strategy over and over again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the data here from the event, and it looks like there's a lot of different interesting stuff, not just from the factions that were represented,
Mm-hmm.
but also some of the masters that were taken pretty heavily, I would say.
Absolutely.
And there's also some familiar faces in these top placings here, it looks like.
There are.
Yeah.
Definitely want to give a big shout out to Bad Fohaku. In addition to having covered this stuff already, they covered a sort of big breakdown of their experience playing at Adepticon. The 2 main members of Bad Fohaku came in first and second. So we had
familiar-ish places from Captain
Con. Absolutely, yeah. So we had Landon Sheehan actually won the Tyrant tournament. He played 10 Thunders, and he played mostly Yanlo 2 and Lynch 2, but in one round he also played Yoko 2.
The Gospel of Lynch 2 is real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And coming in second place, David Longton, he played Mayfang 2 basically all day, or Hoffman 2, and in one round he even played both.
We're doing both.
Yeah. So declaring Mayfang 2 with Hoffman as a second master is actually a really, really interesting situation, because if you have Hoffman, who's not a leader, you can command construct Hoffman to use his irresistible damage more than once per round, which is wild. That would be a great example of potentially banning a keyword, augmented.
So he's basically just zapping people irreducible.
He was zapping everybody.
He was zapping everybody.
And in third place, we also saw one of the guys from the Texas meta, Andre Demings. He came in third place, and he played McCabe 2 in every round.
Yeah, I think McCabe 2 is a really interesting master. I have him in my 10 Thunderers group.
Absolutely.
And I also am really looking forward to trying him out in Explorer Society.
Yeah.
I haven't run McCabe 1 in Explorer Society as much, but I do think McCabe 2 has some real legs.
Absolutely. And Andre declared McCabe 2 out of 10 Thunders.
Yeah.
Yep. We also had a couple of different really popular masters in each faction. So for Arcanists, it was Hoffman 2. There was a little bit of Mayfang, certainly, but it was mostly Hoffman 2. Unfortunately, Bayou wasn't super well represented at this tournament. After, the kin nerfing, it's not super surprising.
There is still one matriarch.
There is. We saw Ma Tucket almost in every round that the Bayou player played.
I think Ma Tucket 1 is still really strong.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the one that we saw. Yeah. The Explorer Society also not the biggest showing. Again, maybe potentially on the riding the wave of all of the nerfs that happened, but we saw a lot of Maxine 1 That was sort of the most popular Explorers
Maxine
Master.
1 over Maxine 2?
Maxine 1. Yep, Maxine 1 all day.
That's really interesting because I know in our local meta,
Mhm.
a lot of the Explorer Society players have kind of shifted to Maxine 2
Yep.
and also looking at Nexus 2 and kind of looking at Jezda.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the buzz at our LGS at least.
Yeah, we definitely did see a lot of Ivan 2, a little bit of Ivan 1, but the Master I think that got played the most rounds was Maxine 1. We also had a couple of guild players. We had 2 guild players. Mostly we saw Bass 2 in all of the guild rounds. There was the Bass 2, it was a very trap-heavy list, which was very interesting.
Probably a very lead line cloak heavy list.
So much lead.
So
There
much
was
lead, so much
everywhere.
lines, so much cloaks.
Now, very interesting for Neverborn. We saw almost half of all of the Neverborn games ran as Nekoma.
Yeah, I'm looking at that data right now, and I was going to ask you if that was a misprint.
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay.
Out of the 6 Neverborn players playing a total of 30 games, 17 of those games were played with Nekoma. 9 played Nekoma 1, 8 played Nekoma 2, so almost a dead even split.
Was there a let them bleed wedge deployment claim jump pool?
Every turn,
Every
every round. No,
Yeah.
Nekoma 2 just seems to be really popular. I'm sort of surprised that Nekoma 2 was as popular, especially, and actually, I guess I'm more surprised that Nekoma 1 was as popular with the Black Blood nerf, and
She's still good.
she's still very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very good. So with Outcast, we saw mostly Leviticus 2. That was mostly Tim Ball, to be fair. He played Leviticus every single round in Leviticus 2.
Bringing it home with the
in
puppets.
4 out of 5. And he used the puppet guys, which were really, really well converted. So shout out to Tim. Great job on those models. And then lastly, we had a couple of Rezzers players, and out of those Rezzers players, 2 of them ran a single master all 5 rounds, and that was Reva 2 and Kirai 2. Lots of different masters.
I think that's cool. I mean, the one thing I'm a little surprised by is the kind of the lack of the Bayou players. I mean, I guess it
Yeah.
makes sense. They did get hit for some of their favorite toys,
Mhm.
got taken away from them.
Yep.
And I think the other thing that I'm looking forward to is watching really competitive Explorer Society players
Absolutely.
kind of shift their focus away from what were some of the like must-take models.
Yep.
And my perspective is now that it's kind of forcing them to reevaluate different keywords
Mhm.
and try different combinations outside of what they were just really used to. I know when you and I were at Captain Con, for example,
Mhm.
we saw a really high density of fairly similar looking Explorer Society lists.
Right.
And
A lot of them taking a lot of different models out of keyword, especially Dr. BB and Calypso.
the Archivist,
The Archivist, yeah.
and then the big bad lion. Big bad lion.
Oh,
man.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that the Emissary and Effigy are still quite good.
I think there are too.
I think that now maybe a little bit less insane, but definitely still quite worth taking.
Yeah. I guess my point is more like it's going to be really cool to see people leaning more heavily into keywords in Explorer Society
Definitely.
and less just playing like best available model,
Mhm.
which I'm sure was Weird's intention for kind of.
Yeah. I mean,
doing that.
we see it time and time again. Whenever there's a model that's taken aggressively out of keyword, they get changed so that they don't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Swoopity boopity boopity cut.
Uh,
So the second tournament you ran was the Henchman Hardcore tournament. I think
was.
that was a 1-day 5-round tournament.
It was, yeah. 5 rounds in one day for Malifaux is kind of crazy, but in Henchman Hardcore, you play 45-minute rounds.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So Henchman Hardcore is a really interesting format. Instead of the traditional 50 Soulstone games, you play 30. You're only allowed to bring a max of 4 models. You have to pay full cost for each of them, and you don't get any free effigies. You don't get any free
Totems.
because you can't take any totems because you're not allowed to take any masters. You have to have 1 henchman that leads your crew, and then you get exactly 3 other models. You're not allowed to summon at any point, and the scheme pool is always the same. It's always plan explosives with assassinate and vendetta. You can also score right away from turn 1. So the games are very fast paced. They last really. You can absolutely get through a game of Henchman Hardcore in 45 minutes, and it's a great teaching format.
I think one of the things I'm excited for is pushing that format at our local game store.
Yo, I can't wait.
I think personally, I'm just really excited for a lot of the shenanigans.
Yeah.
I'm looking through some of these lists, and I see a couple of spicy meatballs in here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So from the Tyrant tournament, the 3rd place finisher, Andre, he actually ended up winning the Henchman Hardcore tournament. Andre played a Kia list from Maxine's crew, the EBS keyword, and his list consisted of Kia, as well as Calypso, Dr. Beeb, and a Machinist with the Flush with Cash upgrade.
Machinist is so good in that list because he's just so much value over time for
So
all
much
healing.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Flush with Cash is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I think what could only be described as potentially the most spicy list of all of
The
Adepticon.
spiciest of the meatballs.
The spiciest.
The Thune list.
The Thune list.
This was Luke, Nebraska.
Yeah, shout out to Luke from Nebraska. He came in second with Thune, only dropping a single game to Andre. And he had a crew that consisted of Thune, a Doppelganger, a Blood Wretch, and a Wicked Dull.
So he was just basically throwing around frozen trophies all day, sticking people in ice pillars.
Yeah. It was sort of it was chilling to behold.
Oh,
Zing.
And
it was wild. I walked over to several games where I looked at the field and saw 4 ice pillars and no enemy models on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think 3 out of his 5 games he managed to ice pillar the entire opponent's crew. So just well done.
So what you're saying is Luke is the hero that we both needed and deserved.
He is.
Good for him. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. If you want to come on the show and talk about your Thune crew, let's go.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Please, I would like some tips because I absolutely plan on doing that at our local hardcore henchman tournaments.
Yeah. And third place in henchman hardcore, of course, was Brian Bauer. Brian, although a Reser player in the main tournament, ended up playing Outcasts, but he played an Outcast.
This is the Montresor list, right?
Yeah, it's Montresor. So he got to declare Montresor as his henchman leader, and then he had an Undead Outlaw, a Guilty, and then a Hanged with Servant of the Powers.
Yeah, you see Hanged all the time. Those guys are really strong.
They're very, very strong.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was the henchman hardcore or if it was the Tyrant tournament, but at one point during the weekend, I did see an opponent red Joker into a Hanged while the Hanged player flipped a black Joker.
Yeah, and the face was like...
And just the range of emotions. Did
you see the full spectrum range of emotions?
The full spectrum.
That about wraps it up for us, guys. Thanks for watching our video on Danger Planet's journey through Adepticon 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Like and subscribe to the channel. We've got a whole lot more Malifaux content coming up in the near future.
Yeah, but before we go, I just wanted to say a couple things. Thank you so much to Wyrd for having me out. I had an excellent time TOing your events. I'd love to come back and do it again. Congratulations to Bad for Haku. Landon and David Longton, you guys both did amazingly. I can't wait to see you at another event and get crushed by you. And of course, it wouldn't be a Malifaux event in Massachusetts or New England or the world without John Goulbourne being there. John, I've never been to an event without you. So if you ever want to come on the channel and just sort of chat Malifaux with us,
legendary,
hit us up. But thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you soon.
See you guys. That time I didn't throw up.
The Christmas miracle.
Yes.
A man wears underwear, Doug.
All of them.
No, not all of them. That's not true. I gotta channel my inner Kevin Smith and just execute.
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy that wears the jerseys that did...
Does he play sports?
No, he doesn't sports ball. He wrote Daredevil.
Ben Affleck?
What?
Ben Affleck wrote Daredevil.
No, he was in Daredevil.
No, Kevin Smith was in Daredevil. Kevin Smith, he was the guy that was in Daredevil. Ben Affleck was in Jay and Silent Bob.
Kevin Smith wrote Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, but Ben Affleck was Silent Bob.
No, Kevin Smith was Silent Bob.
And there were some games that had multiple Nakamas because they were Neverborn versus Neverborn.
It was the Nakama Mirror match!
They both took Nakama.
All right, are we recording?
We are.
At some point, somebody should press record.
That's my joke.
And tell me if my hair looks good.
Tell me if my hair looks red.
What about my hair?
It looks excellent.
It's very short.
That's the sound controller.
That's off.
We need you to check that the shot is in frame.
Well, here's the problem.
Because
ladies, leave your man at home. The club is full of ballers and their pockets full grown.
That's some real wisdom.
Yeah.
Isn't everyone really a nun when you think about it?
Only in Sister Act. Coming to you.
Oh, I threw up. No, I threw up.
Okay.
It's like, waterproof that chicken and give it a kazoo. Mike, do you want to come here and do this Malifaux?
Please no.
Please no. So.
Also, I would say I might take Tums. We used the bands format. And I also ran a 5-round Henchman Hardcore tournament. And also, Michael, if you go out of the door while we're recording, we will hear the bell. Where did he go?
Hold
Ah!
on. Feel the rhythm.
No,
Feel the rhyme.
I won't.
It's bobsled time.